Hey guys, so for this video I'm going to be doing a voiceover to explain my painting process and how I get from start to finish. This piece was inspired by a photo that I found on Instagram belonging to Adrian Murray, and I really like the lighting here, so I decided that I'm going to try to make my own characters from it and see what I can come up with. So the first thing that I start with is always a sketch. I like to put a sketch down just so I know where all the different colors are going to go. Now, unfortunately, I didn't actually record the sketching process for this video, but what you see on screen right now is basically I am doing a general color blocking for the background. And this is just to get an overall sense of the color and the lighting, and also the mood of the painting. Like, I'm not putting in too much detail, I'm not focusing too much on the small things. I'm just trying to get like a general feel. And I like to always do the background first because this gives me an idea of whether or not the painting is actually going to work before I move on to the subject. So after I figure out the background, I can then turn the opacity down on the original sketch and go in with the lasso tool to kind of get an outline for the character. And this just makes sure that when I do the color blocking for the character and when I go in with my brush, I don't go outside of the outline. I don't change the original form of the character. You don't have to do this, but it'll make your life a lot easier when you don't have to worry about painting outside of the lines and having to readjust every single time. And this is pretty much just the same color blocking process as the background. I'm trying to get a sense of how she's going to look in this space, in this environment, how the light is going to be interacting with her. And I'm not going into too much detail right now because that's just not necessary. I'm trying to see if the character will fit in the environment. And again, I'm turning down the opacity of the original sketch more and more as I get more into the details of the character. And you can see that I flipped my canvas just now. That is a super useful thing that you can do to spot mistakes in your painting. If you're drawing, especially portraits, I find in any case where like there's anatomy involved, it's really helpful to kind of look at your painting from a fresh angle with a fresh eye, and you can spot all the mistakes that you've been making. There are so many instances where I flip the canvas over and I'm like, oh my goodness, like how did I not see this? So now I am going into a bit more detail with the character. And once I start doing this, you can see that I turn off the original sketch layer because I no longer need that guidance as to where to put things. And you'll see me turn that layer back on every once in a while when I get to an area that's less detailed, that there's less information there, and I need some guidance. I'll turn that layer back on. And I only go into smaller details once I'm comfortable with the overall colors of the character. And when I see that the character is sitting in the environment well and she's looking like she's a part of the environment, I can then go into defining her a little bit more with a smaller brush. And you can see that I'm also adjusting some of the proportions, some of the mistakes that I see. And now is probably one of the best times to make these big changes because you've yet to get into too much detail, and you can see that I'm changing like the color of the top, and this is the creative freedom you have when you decide to make your own character. And I try not to be too limited by the original sketch. If I see areas that I want to change or things that I want to add in, I will just do it and ignore the sketch. This is why I like to keep the sketch kind of loose, because I know throughout the process of painting I'm going to find different things that I'm going to want to add or take out. So the sketch functions kind of like a skeleton to tell me where things are going to go, as opposed to a representation of what the final painting will look like. And here I start on the hand. Now, you know how it is with hands. Hands are like impossible to draw. So I get a little bit stuck here. It's looking like she has 3 fingers. I don't know what's going on. But how do you get over this? Well, we all have hands, right? So I used my own left hand, flipped the canvas, used my left hand as a reference. I, had to pose it in a way that I think would work for the painting. And basically went off of that. So whenever you're stuck on a hand, and I get stuck on hands literally all the time, I have no idea what I'm doing with them. Whenever you get stuck with it, just reference your own hand. You're going to be drawing with one hand. You're going to have the other hand free. So take a look at your hand and make sure that what you're drawing looks like an actual hand. And at this point in the painting, I'm feeling like our main character is looking pretty solid. So we can then move on to our second character, which is this little dog thing that I created. Again, we're starting with color blocking, basic color blocking. We're not going into the details. And this is just we want to make sure the character sits in the environment correctly before we do anything crazy with them. So here you can see big brush strokes. I'm trying to get the colors down, trying to work with the lighting a bit. And once I feel comfortable with that, and this is where I move into, a bit of the smaller details and stuff, how the eyes are going to look, the big puppy eyes, and some of the lighting on the side. You can see at this stage, I'm jumping back and forth a bit between our two main subjects. And this is because we are in kind of a final detailing stage now. So any of the small things that I spot that I think I need to work on, I'll just go right ahead and work on it no matter what area I'm currently painting. And that's because a lot of these fixes might be kind of small. So if I hold off on them, I might forget about them. And right now it is okay to jump into smaller details and kind of hop around the painting a little bit, just finding small things to fix. And you can see here I'm just addressing the color a bit and how the lighting is going to interact with the character. You can see some like the bounce light that hits the backside of her arm and her back. And this is also something you have to consider, because when you have a light source, especially like a strong light source like sunlight, like you see in this painting, there's going to be a lot of bounce light. And if you address that light correctly, your character is going to look like they really are sitting in that environment. And one thing I like to keep in mind for this stage of the painting is to not get too caught up in the details and try not to stay in one area for too long. And that's usually how we end up spending like 9 hours, on a single painting. And it's like crazy amount of time is because we get so caught up on like one area and we just keep going over it and over it and over it, and we don't know when to stop, right? So what I find personally is that when I spend less time going over all the perfectionist details and things like that, I find that my paintings actually look a bit nicer, in my opinion, because you can see all the brush strokes and how it's all done, and it looks less artificial in a sense. So yeah, I just skip around the painting, move from spot to spot, don't stay in one area for too long, and I tried to let go of the perfectionist in me that wants to, draw every single eyelash. But yeah, this is basically my painting process. So hopefully this was helpful with the commentary, and if there's anything else that you want to see, like a specific tutorial or how I do certain things, feel free to let me know in the comments and I'll try to cover that topic. But yeah, thank you for watching. I appreciate you being here. I'm gonna try to get a better mic so that I don't sound so muffled all the time. But here is the final painting.